For February 21st, 2024. Sam, roll call, please.
Driver?
Here.
Washburn?
Here.
Bhatia? Bozanovsky?
Here.
Meyer?
Here.
Rissler?
Here.
Van Beckham?
Here.
All right. Next on the agenda will be the approval of the January 17th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the meetings as written for January 17th.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further comments, questions?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't here.
All right. I'll call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And one abstention. Excellent. Next will be, under new business, 4800 90th Street Site Plan Review, SP 24-2. Sam?
Sorry, hold up a sec.
No problem.
We're down a couple staff people today, so I'm taking minutes at the same time.
Yep. I'll talk slower then.
Much appreciated.
If I could, I just want to note for the record that the minutes indicate last meeting ended at 1:54. So if you're going to beat that, Sam, jump in.
I'm gonna have to take quick minutes.
I understand.
Alrighty. On behalf of ATC, Kevin Lynch applied for a site plan for the electrical substation of Phase 1 of the Microsoft Data Center development. At under 5,000 square feet of building space, this normally would qualify for an administrative site plan review, but the adopted redevelopment plan for TID 5 requires the village board approval for all building plans within areas 1, 2, and 3 of TID 5. The proposed electrical substation consists of approximately a 19-acre yard enclosed by a 24-foot wall protecting the facilities. The yard will be covered in crushed stone and drain into the larger site and be part of their larger stormwater plan. Stormwater management is provided by Microsoft and is part of that plan. Access to the site will be a private driveway within Microsoft's parcel. The site will be unmanned and normally unoccupied. No water service or sewer service will be installed at the substation facilities. No dedicated parking is provided. Personnel will temporarily park vehicles within the facility if they need to visit the site. The application follows the comprehensive plan. We do not have an adopted plan for local planning area 14. Parks and open space plan for the village recommends protecting the isolated natural resource area in the center of the property, which the property owner, Microsoft, chose to do as part of CSM 23-6 with a deed restriction. And there are no recommended bicycle improvements for the subject property, although the village will install a multi-use pathway along the west side of 90th Street as part of that reconstruction. In terms of village-wide regulations, the lighting plan submitted shows 50-foot masts for the lighting fixtures, 4,000 Kelvin color temperature, and no shielding on the light fixtures. The standards per the ordinance are a maximum of 35-foot height, including the base, 3,000 Kelvin CCT max, and full shielding. The applicant has stated that they plan to apply for a variance, which should meet at earliest in March. The applicant shall submit a plan otherwise showing a maximum 35-foot height, including base, 3,000 Kelvin CCT, and full shielding, or have successfully applied for a variance. That is condition number 1. The plan submitted shows 24-foot walls, and the maximum in this zoning district is 8 feet and 10 feet if approved by the Plan Commission. However, Microsoft already successfully applied for and was approved for a variance for wall heights up to 35 feet, and that variance applies for the whole parcel and runs with the land. So that variance applies to this ATC substation as well.
Sam, why would that be?
Because all variances are specific to the parcel.
But it was specific to the size, the length, and where it was located on the property.
It was not.
It was not.
No,
That's
it was specific to the parcel. So Microsoft has approval for a 35-foot wall across the entire parcel. They own the entire parcel, so that variance also applies to these walls.
Boy, I didn't pick up on that fact when
No.
it was before. Was that variance before us for this?
No, variances go in front of the Board of Appeals. You have no say over them.
It was a site plan, but it was our approval was based on the variance being approved.
Correct, and they
So
got the
we-
variance.
So we did, it would have been one of our conditions that they would have had to get that variance for the wall as what we thought, at least my interpretation was, that particular wall for sound, for where they needed it to be, not for the entire property.
Right.
Frankly, you have no authority to rein in the Board of Appeals in that way. They could grant a variance however they want. So even if the staff wrote it specifically, the Board of Appeals could have said, no, it applies to the entire parcel, or reined it in more specific than you wanted. So, the Board of Appeals approved it for the entire parcel, and that's the way it
Okay.
stands.
And do you think that's what they're gonna do?
What do you mean?
The whole length, the whole parcel?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I'm just saying the allowance for a 35-foot wall applies across the entire parcel. The plans show what you had in your site plan.
Okay, that's, okay.
We only brought it up because ATC does not need to apply for another variance. The Microsoft one covers them for this substation.
So in other words, just to clarify, the original Microsoft walls that we approved were also running along KR, which this parcel is involved in.
Not necessarily, no. They kind of run interior to the site and wrap around the east side and a little bit of the south side, but they're not near KR. There's like a
They're
thing
setback.
blocking them anyways. But regardless,
They were set back.
yeah,
The variance applies to the entire parcel in
Exactly.
which this sits. This
correct.
sits,
Yep.
yes.
ATC is essentially subleasing a portion of the site because they're directly serving Microsoft. So Microsoft serves the entire, or still owns the entire contiguous parcel. It's not like a separate parcel. They, if they had split it off, then ATC would have had to come in and get a new variance, but they did not. So
Are there any regs or something that would set a minimum setback for these monstrous walls? mean, the
it depends
variance-
on the Board of Appeals variance process. There's nothing specific because they're all above the height limit.
Separate and apart from this particular parcel, isn't there a standing ordinance or something in effect on setbacks for walls?
Depends on the zoning district. Some are taller, some are shorter. But there's no specific setback for height. Walls, fences, things like that can go up to the property line. That's why typically they're limited to 8 or 10 feet with your permission.
These are going to be pretty much the same as the Highway H substation, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Sam, I got a question for you. I don't know much about this stuff, but does every big development require a substation like this that comes in, or is it,
For data center specifically,
right?
I don't know the answer to that question, honestly. We're not really involved in any of the power demands. We approve the site plan for the substation, but we don't get involved in the technical back end at all. It's all between the utility and the end customer. So, and utilities typically, and this is on a private property, so we do have some review authority, but utilities are typically within the right of way, and those are governed by state statute. So more or less, it's kind of like they're just another government entity out there, or government sanctioned monopoly out there, but we don't have a lot to do with them.
Sam, question with respect to the fact that there's no water to this site. I understand it's a power station and there'll be occasional workers there, but is there any fire risk to something like this? If there's
I have
no
no idea.
water, how could it possibly be addressed, perhaps? Or is it not an issue?
I don't know. I'm not part of the fire suppression plan review. That would be the fire chief. Honestly, neither are you guys, so it's not really part of the purview of this conversation. I don't want to shut down your question, but ultimately, like, Ed and his team can require what is needed per state statute regarding fire suppression, and that's about it. So I know there are hydrants throughout the site. I don't know if there are any specific to serve this substation, but
You know, I remember when Pleasant Prairie had the power plant built. And that, Tasha, I'm sure you remember it as well. And that was a very big deal for the Pleasant Prairie Fire Department. So while it's not germane to exactly what we are approving today, it certainly is a question that I think as a trustee, I wouldn't mind the chief answering or speaking to, if not here, at whatever meeting at the board level that we speak to it. In other words, or that we vote on this. In other words, chief, do we have to are we set up as a fire department now? You know, we added the station, we added the extra engine for the TID 5 in general. But do we have to do anything special for fire suppression for these huge lines?
And I don't mean to shut you down, Chief or Nancy, but that could be a discussion for another time.
All right.
Because that is not anything specific to what we're doing. So we can have a discussion with Ed later, if that works.
Please.
Okay, go ahead.
In terms of the rest of the approval processes, this meets all the other site plan requirements. Generally, the screening is taking care of the walls, but did want to highlight that Microsoft has pretty significant landscaping throughout both the south and east portion of their entire site plan. So while these walls would be interior, there are essentially landscape features between where the walls would be and the road right-of-way. And this is also in the western portion of Microsoft's site, so it's a little bit more adjacent to where the overpass over the tracks comes up, which affects our site plan review positively in that, you know, there's kind of trees and buffers and the overpass away from this. But it's also one of the reasons why we want to call it the lighting plan specifically, because if there's 50-foot poles, which we understand are the ATC kind of standard for this level of substation, but because it's kind of directly to that overpass, you're going to have these 50-foot poles pretty, you know, not close per se, but very visible on that overpass. So it'd be nice to keep them shorter so you're not glaring right in drivers' eyes as they're going over that train overpass.
Have you talked to them about that, Sam?
We sent them the comments a few weeks ago. They've indicated they're going to apply for a variance, so it'll likely end up at Board of Appeals to decide it one way or another.
At 50 feet tall, also, I would think what is going to be surrounding it, particularly to the north, is more of a residential use. I mean, I guess I see the light plans, and I will look at them a little harder, but I'm just wondering what, because they're not shielded, so that light is gonna be far-reaching at 50 feet.
Yeah, I was talking to Rob about it yesterday. I think he brought up a good note of one of the reasons why we're concerned with it. So you can see the cranes out there with their safety lights on now at night. A lot of those are probably about 50-ish feet tall. Some of the lights as they go up the crane are probably around those levels. You can see them like from 11, from 20. So, you know, that's why we're concerned is you'd be able to see like these large LED lights from pretty far away.
And we understand the
So
safety aspect.
safety, certainly important. It's, you know, kind of a pseudo public asset, so we understand why they're very concerned with it, but it's also enclosed by 24-foot walls. I mean,
Well, from what I'm reading, though, this is only going to be used in emergencies, only when they have to do something at a time when there's a problem, because it's unmanned regularly, so these are not going to be on every night. They're only on when they need to go in.
no, the lights are on, I believe, every night for security reasons.
No, not according to what I read from them. I thought I read that was going to be just for emergencies.
Regardless, they're
Yeah,
above
but
the
anyway.
height limit,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. You know, they'll have to apply for a variance, otherwise amend their lighting plan.
This lighting is normally off and will only be activated when the personnel are at the site due to an electrical emergency. That's what they're saying, anyway. That's their words.
Even so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right, well,
Okay.
that's important, though, because
yeah.
if you give them the 50 feet and it's not used that way, and it's used as more of an ongoing thing, you know, for safety, because how tall are those main towers that are out there? They're very tall, so they need to be able to see them. I had a question regarding the walls, Chairman. The substation that's out there now, the concrete walls that are up, those are, I would assume, the same height, the 24 feet.
yeah, I believe so.
Is there any reason why we couldn't or shouldn't, since we gave Microsoft already the additional wall height, is there any reason we couldn't ask them to take those walls up another like 6 feet? I sat out there today looking from all different angles at the existing substation. And from a distance, the walls, you barely see them. They have trees around the outside of them. But what you see are the tops, which are really not very attractive and kind of scary looking and whatever. And I didn't know if there was a reason for the 24 feet, or in looking at this substation, if we had the right or could ask them to make them higher, to block off a little more of the top.
And you could. I think you are viewing the walls as an aesthetic screening choice, and for them, they're essentially security. I mean, you're always going to see some equipment coming into the site.
That's how I'm looking at it, you know.
So, I
recognize the
mean-
security, but
I guess you theoretically could. I would be hesitant to do so without having a conversation with ATC about it.
Yeah, this is probably their standard.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I'm not. You'd be asking for a wall height greater than what is standard allowed in the district, so you're kind of leveraging existing variants to ask for more. I don't. Frankly, I'm not sure if you have the authority to do that or not. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but that's all I can say.
interesting.
Good.
Sam, can you just briefly, is ATC a private utility, or is it more like a Wisconsin Energy? So it's a regulated quasi-public?
Correct. It's regulated public. It's co-owned by the utilities, and they essentially own the power lines in between the utilities.
Oh, okay, so,
Utilities got together and the big transmission lines, they all kind of dumped them on this new entity, well, not new now, I was working when they did it, so it's a long time ago. But they're the ones that take care of getting the power from A to B, and then We Energies takes it from going to B to B minus or B2 or whatever. So
thanks.
it's a step down.
Yeah, so they're regulated by PSC and all that kind of stuff. So
So there's some potential that additional development in the area could possibly be serviced by this
Correct.
substation.
Yep, Microsoft bought 3A. So it's, they could use that in the future or pull from this to serve another, station depending on their plans and how they locate buildings and distances and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Feeders, they show feeders for future service for different customers.
All right. Anything else on your,
Just the fiscal impact. The development is an accessory use of the previously approved Microsoft development, and so, those fiscal impact is already kind of baked into those projections. That is, the village will reimburse the developer for a municipal revenue obligation of 42% of the annual incremental property taxes paid on improvements not to exceed $5 million per year for the duration of tax incremental district number 5. And they estimated their total development cost at not less than $1 billion for this portion of TID 5. So that guarantee only relates to the east side of the tracks in 3B, area 3B.
right?
There are additional agreements and guarantees and stuff for the other areas that Microsoft has since purchased. But
Sam, is that a reimbursement of only the village property tax, or is
no,
that,
it's in a tax incremental district, so it's the entire taxing jurisdiction.
so it's the county, it's the school district, it's
Tech college, yep.
village, okay.
With that, we recommend approval.
Yeah, Sam, in there, we have this condition, but you say no conditions, but there is a condition that they get a site approval for the variance, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
Okay,
Make sure that's noted.
okay. On that note, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that Plan Commission recommend approval of the 4800 90th Street Site Plan Review, SP 23-29, with the condition of them receiving either changing their lighting plan to the 35-foot height or get a variance for the 50 foot.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further questions or comments? Any public comment? Then I will call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next will be 7618 Gittings Road, SP 24-3.
This applicant seeks permission to use alternative high-quality durable building materials on a permitted detached house. The property is currently zoned RE, which is a residential estate, and per section 90-110.90D, at least 60% of the street-facing facades on detached houses in this district must be brick masonry, stone masonry, or cast stone masonry. The owners have submitted site plans that propose 6-inch wide LP siding, trim boards, and hardy cement board siding in lieu of that masonry. As alternative high quality durable building material may be permitted if approved through the Plan Commission site plan review process. The application follows the land use element of the comp plan. We do not have an adopted local planning area, and neither the bike plan nor the park and open space plan contain any recommendations for the subject property. This site in general allows single household uses by right. The municipal sewer and water service serve the application's properties. And the village staff do not believe approving this site plan will affect the future taxability of the property. The village staff do believe this code section is redundant, though, so we wanted to call it out. With the recent adoption of the wider architectural review standards from late last year, we're likely going to look at a code update to simplify the architectural references. So instead of having a called out one specifically to RE, just referencing that homes in the RE district would have to meet the architectural guidelines that like a commercial property would need to meet or something, holding them to that little bit higher and better standard. That would just give them a little bit, because we called out more materials other than stone or brick, in that including cement board siding, architectural metal panels, decorative vision glass, things like that. It's a little bit more flexible. Well, it would still hold the RE lots to a little bit of a higher standard than allowing like vinyl siding or something like that, as we would allow in some of the other residential zoning districts. So we'll bring that code update for you in the next couple months. I also had a short conversation with Commissioner Meyer about the home size. It's listed on the plans as about 2250. The minimum for the RE district is 2,500. And right now, the way it's written is that that's gross heated floor area is 2,500, so the basement counts. That's probably not what we wanted. We were probably going for more of like a finished living area. So while we can't really do anything about this application, and if the applicant ever finishes a portion of their basement, they'll be in compliance. But for future, we'll likely also bring forward a redefined floor area for estate lots to say it has to be finished living area. Has to be at least 2,500 square feet to make sure that the homes are kind of big home, big lot, nice home is what we're going for in the estate district. So
Would we not want to tie that to the assessed, what the assessor would consider living space?
yeah, I think that's the plan, is we'll just use one of their definitions. So when they're out there assessing it, we're all looking at the same stuff essentially. So more often than not, these homes have been above 2,500 square feet, so it hasn't really come up before. But this one being within a couple hundred square feet, we did the double check, and that's where we kind of landed after rereading the definitions and everything. So, well, good on them. It's not a 5-acre estate lot, so I'm not super concerned about it from a taxability standpoint, but just something for us to fix in the future. Other than that, no issues with the application at all, and we recommend that the Plan Commission moves to approve the site plan.
Questions for Sam?
I have none.
One thing in related to this that if I could get a little bit of feedback now on, when we bring that code update forward, typically when we would refer to another section that would not come in front of the Plan Commission, our assumption is that if they met the code architectural guidelines, that you all would not care about seeing those applications. We can review the materials at a staff level. So unless any of you have concerns with that, we would just take care of it as part of the normal building permit process.
That sounds like a good plan you got there.
Sounds good. All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Anything the applicant would like to add at all? No? Okay. Okay. And if there's no further questions,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of the 7618 Gittings Road Site Plan Review SP 24-3.
Second.
motion and second. Any further questions or comments? Or any public comments? Okay. Then I will call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
Who did the motion in the second?
I made the motion.
Tosh
Meyer.
seconded.
And Tosh was the second.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, staff reports. None.
Just, we have a couple items on the agenda for next month, so we'll see you in March.
All right, very good.
What
Sam?
day? What day in March?
It will be on March, let me just pull up the calendar.
22nd, probably.
March 20th.
20, yeah, that's right. You'd move up a day.
Yep,
Yep, March 20th.
okay.
Sam, just one comment, when you're doing when we're talking about, code revisions, we had, at one point, when we had that zoning up on Old Green Bay Road, we talked about the fact, very briefly, we talked about the fact that one of the contentions with the zoning code in place was recognizing, like infill sites and transitions between existing housing, zoning types into more dense housing types, and we were gonna maybe look at that area of the code as well, because it wasn't clearly defined when we had the, you know what I mean, the property where they had the 40-foot lots up against the 100-foot lots and so forth. We talked about maybe,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, I'm just wondering if you've given that any thought, or,
I can talk to you about it after the meeting.
I just have one other comment in regards to this RE. It was just probably, 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, where we, on Old Fancher Road, the gentleman there changed from an RE to an RL1 because he wasn't gonna build a 2,500 square foot home, the same understanding. So I feel bad for him, because if he wanted to have the RE lot, he changed the lot dimensions so that he could build a smaller home. So I don't know what you can do for those folks if they want to go back and to look at that. I'm just,
That's a legislative decision. Once it's
Yeah.
through, it's through, that we
Yeah.
would need to go through the entire process to
Okay.
to change it again.
yeah, because I know the reason for doing the RE when we did that size was for the assessment, to assure that you were going to have a value on that property that would be commensurate to their frontage or whatever, the size. And if this wording is the same for everybody, you could build a pretty small home now in an RL district, even though it says it's 1,200. Well, not really, because if I have a 1,000 square foot or a 900 square foot home on the first floor and I'm finishing half my basement, I'm going to meet the letter of the law, and I don't think you're going to want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's in relation to what Trustee Washburn brought up as well.
Right.
We're thinking about how that kind of all interrelates. You know, it's been a few months since or a few years since we adopted the new zoning, so.
I
you know,
agree, you should probably leave the basement out of it.
Yeah.
Finished or not finished,
I agree. I think it should be above grade.
above grade.
absolutely, that's how the tax assessor looks at it, that's how the real estate community looks at it, that, you know,
Yep.
finished basements are finished basements, but they are
Basements.
basements, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So, I think I think we all sort of see that pretty easily.
Yeah,
Be careful, because you got tri-levels.
Right.
Tri-levels, though, doesn't the tax with a well, you can have a quad level too. The fourth level down would be the basement. In a typical tri-level, you have your upper level, which is 2-story, your main level, which is at maybe a little above grade, and then your lower level, which is half grade. So that all three of those are considered living space.
As long as there's not soil around them. When there's a wall with soil around it, it's
well,
And
Same
no
level.
windows?
Yeah.
And
Why
no-
don't-
well, and no windows.
why don't you let us propose something and then we can discuss it?
You're gonna get a bunch of realtors here talking about the definition of subgrade.
Yeah.
Good point, though, Frank.
all right, then, one more motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.